Welcome to Timberline Bass Podcast, your place for Wisconsin bass fishing and everything outdoors.
Hey, folks, welcome to episode 5 of the Timberline Bass Podcast. Um, Tonight I'm looking to do something a little bit different rather than just focusing on one single topic. I'm going to try to do a multi-segmented show. So we'll hit a couple topics. Might be a little bit longer episode, might be shorter, not quite sure how this is going to go. Before we get into everything, I wanted to point out my new shirt here. This is the Bass Fishing Saves Lives T-shirt from BTL. Every year, Matt Pangrack over there tries to raise money for the St. Jude Bass Classic. It's a big bass fishing tournament that takes off out of Wabasha, Minnesota. Me and Dad did it a few years ago, but we weren't sure what kind of shape he was going to be in this year with his back issues and stuff. So we weren't able to do it and raise money. But by buying the T-shirts and stuff, all the proceeds from that get donated to St. Jude's, and he also has a donation page. So if anybody would be willing to do that, go over to I want to say Bass Zone. Otherwise, I think you can search him through St. Jude's website too. And any donation helps. Like it's a great cause. I know when me and Dad did that, that was by far the coolest tournament I've done in my life. They get Fat Cat Newton comes and does the weigh-in. He's the master of ceremonies and stuff. Um, a nice big stage. For what's mostly small-time guys, it's kind of it gets that big tournament feeling to it. And then it was all live streamed, the weigh-ins and everything. And then I think after day one, they put on a dinner every year, and they normally bring in a family or something, and a survivor. And they go through and they tell their story. It was a pretty cool experience. One I'll never forget. The year we were there, they not only wanted to highlight the survivors, but they also wanted to point out, for every survivor there's kids out there that don't. So they brought in a family and talked about if I remember correctly, it was a little boy who didn't make it. His mom and dad came up on stage, and the Mississippi River, you get some of the gruffest, manliest river rats we have. And in a room full of 300 people, there was not a dry eye in there. Hands down, one of like I said, the coolest experiences I've ever had with a fishing tournament. So, the tournament's coming up here sometime in May. It's pretty early on. But if anybody would be interested in jumping into that next year, I would highly recommend it. We're hoping to get into it next year. Me and Dad will probably start fundraising as soon as this one's over, and we'll see if we can get in on it right away. Um, but yeah, not to keep rattling on about that. So the first topic I thought about bringing up, on the way to the boat ramp, um, I vary back and forth. Some days I'll listen to BTL, Bass After Dark, stuff like that, listen to podcasts. Um, but a lot of times too, I like listening to music and stuff. We got Apple Music, and I go through and um just thought I'd put a thing out there, leave me a comment. Tell me what's on your bass fishing boat ramp playlist. I'll throw a couple of mine out there. We're hopefully going to be going tomorrow or I'm sorry, not tomorrow. Today is Thursday when I'm recording this. Saturday, we are going to go and break in the new boat. Yamahas have a very specific break-in period. Um, so we'll have a whole day just in getting the motor broke in, and then learning the new boat, how she runs, how she handles. Looks like we're gonna get a nice, nasty, windy day, so I'll get to see how she does in rough water before we go to Sturgeon Bay next weekend. So that'll be fun. So my morning drive playlist to the boat ramp. Really big on Ella Langley right now. Loving that Choosing Texas. I don't know what it is, but that's a good song. Of course, you got to have some Morgan Wallen in there. Um, Also a really big fan of that song "Your Place at My Place" by Joshua Sloan. I listen to that one quite a bit. Um, my playlist changes up a little bit derby mornings. But just going out fun fishing, a lot of country music, maybe some old 90s stuff once in a while. Um, but there, yeah, leave me a comment on YouTube or on whatever podcast platform you're listening to. Just curious what guys listen to, or even if you listen to music in the boat. I have a pretty strict silence in the boat rule, so there's maybe I'll listen on my earbuds a little bit once in a while, but there's no speakers in the boat. There's none of that, no foolishness. Um, but yeah, so I think it's Saturday. It's looking like we're gonna go to Lake Wissota, get the boat dumped in, go through, check and make sure all the electronics are working the way they're supposed to, motors running good, um, dial in settings and stuff. Excuse me. Setting the 360 height, making sure I got my LVS 34 set straight. Um, Kind of curious how that's going to be. I went with the Beatdown Outdoors, their version of the 0 degree mount. Um, my old man's running the original 0 degree mount, and at first he was giving me crap for spending the money on the Beatdown one, but it was definitely worth the money. I will say. Oh, there's the cat. Nice of you to join us, O'Malley. Down. Um, we're all, yeah. Pretty much everything other than my dash mount, which is a precision sonar. I went with Beat Down. Even their new transom saver. It's a very similar concept to the standard ones that come with a Yamaha. It just goes over the lugs for the hydraulic ram or whatever you want to call it, and pinches in between the transom and the motor. But they've got steering clips, and they almost work like the toothy hair clips, and they're way easier to get on than whatever PVC ones. So really impressed with that. I went with a beat down flex up front. I'm running 2 units on that. I went with a 9213 for my live scope and an Explorer 12 there. I've got an Explorer 12 at the dash. But that flex mount is just insane. It's not overly big or bulky, but it's rock solid on the deck of the boat. I'm not scared of bouncing that thing around in 3 footers, Sturgeon Bay. I'm curious to see how it's gonna do, but I'm not scared I'm gonna lose anything. Um, but just so user friendly. Everything Beatdown's got. I was looking at their booth when we were at the Classic too, just checking out some other stuff, and very high quality products. But yeah, so we'll hopefully get out there on Saturday and run it through its paces. And my last boat was a Tracker Pro 70, so kind of a flat bottom mod V, cornering. It slid more than anything. And once you know how to drive it, like, it's not a big deal. But going from that to more traditional style bass boat hull, this thing's gonna hook and carve a lot better. And I've got to get it out of my head how to slide into a corner without hitting anything, because now when I turn the wheel, it's gonna go. Um, and learning the jack plate and stuff like that. I didn't have a jack plate on my old boats. There's a little bit to take in there, and a lot bigger motor, a lot faster boat. Um, uh, which segues right into the, you know, I you get a lot of crap, with bass boats. I always love the comments. You get these manly, gruff dudes, and they're out there in a glitter rocket, all sparkly and pretty. And o- my boat, when I ordered it, the colors I went with were like cappuccino colored for the flooring and the seats, and I went with I think they call it moss. So the hull's like a green, and it's got gold flake in it. And that was the biggest thing I wanted. It's got to have a little sparkle in it. And excuse me. My wife always gives me a hard time about it. And I told her, and I don't know why it popped into my head, but a bass boat's like a woman. You look at it and it's got curves in all the right places. Um, yeah, you know, c- curves in all the right places is what I told her. And I said it's just like you. If I don't respect it, it's gonna kill me. And I just thought that was kind of funny. But the other thing I was thinking too, with this being my first time on the water, a lot of things um guys don't think about. Every year, the first time out you get to the boat ramp, and there's always some other guy there, and he's got his boat sitting on the trailer in the water, and he's cranking on it and trying to get it to start. Or you see the guy goes out and ends up turning back around and comes in, or the guy's complaining his battery's dead, or his electronics won't turn on, or a transducer's shot. And even worse are the guys that get there and they go to crank the motor and they got juice, but the motor don't do nothing. Or they puff the motor when they start it. Um, so the big thing, we always first time out every year, we try to stay someplace close by in case you got issues. Brand new boat, I'm not too concerned about that. Um, I think the guys at Don's Marine did a pretty good job. Um, but kind of a checklist to look over before you go out for the first time of the year. Um, to me, the best place to start is kind of the lifeblood of the boat, starting in your batteries. Look them over. If you're running lead acids or AGMs, even lithiums, make sure they're not bloated. Check your connections, see if there's anything corroded. Um, not that corroded terminals are the end of the world if you catch them right away, but an easy fix. I don't remember if it's Coke or Diet Coke, and a toothbrush will clean them right up. I think it's regular Coke. Make sure you don't have any frayed wires. Make sure you don't have any bare spots that are turning green. A really important thing nowadays with all the new electronics and everything, the what is it, nickel or zinc coated? Basically, the wires should have a silver coating to them. When you strip them to put the ends and stuff on. So that does add a little more protection if you get a bare spot, but you don't want a bare spot. If you find one, fix it. Um, Let me know too. Maybe that'd be a good episode. Wiring boats. I've had to work on a lot of boats over the years, and it really makes you wonder what people are doing. Some of the crap you see, or the amount of times I've seen people try to run house wire in boats. Two totally different things, but um, so going from your batteries, another thing to check. Hopefully, if you're not storing your boat in a heated place, you did your maintenance before you stored your boat for the winter. The one year I left my boat in my garage through the winter, you make sure you change your oil. Most importantly is draining your lower unit grease, and putting clean in. And not so much that the oil itself will hurt anything, but the biggest thing you're checking for is to make sure you didn't get any water in there. If you got water in your lower unit, you need to, it could just be a bad gasket on the filler screw, or hopefully that's all it is. You should change those out every time you do your maintenance. Normally you can, I mean, even look on Amazon, a gasket's a gasket for the most part. I know for my old Merc, I bought like 30 of them for $20 on Amazon, and every time I pulled the screw off, just threw new ones on. When you got them screws out of there, if you've got the ones with the magnetic ends, look for any shavings, filings. I mean, granted, I'm breaking, as them gears and everything mesh in there, they do wear themselves in. That's break in. But if you're ways past that and you're getting a lot of metal shavings, it might be time to have that looked at. Um, you know, Another one's checking your water pump, on my old boat didn't have a water pressure gauge, but keep an eye on your water pressure. If you notice your water pressure is going down, it's probably getting time to put a new water pump in. It's a little bit of an undertaking, but a little mechanical know-how and some YouTube videos, it's not that bad to do. Um, and you definitely don't want to have it go out on the water and there you sit. Um, so yeah, stuff like that. The first time you put it in, when you start the motor up, check and make sure you've got water pressure. Keep an eye on that. That's guys should always be paying attention to what you're getting for RPMs and your water pressure. You can tell a lot of what's going on by just that. I mean, you should have in the back of your head, at top speed, this is the RPM I'm running. And that makes it easier when a guy plays with props and stuff like that. If you're, looking for a little bit more out of the hole or a little bit more top end, your RPMs is what you're going to tell somebody when you're looking to get a prop or searching to figure out what you need to do what you accomplish. Another thing too, go through and check all your nuts and bolts. Most of your nicer bass boats don't have a plywood deck or anything, but I know on my tracker, once a month I was going through and tightening all the screws on the deck, especially if you hit any sort of rough water or just from bouncing down the road. Um, but even on the nicer bass boats, like your trim plates and stuff like that, on your dash or around your switches, just double check them. It's way easier to keep an eye on them and keep them screws in there. Nothing like doing 65, 70 down the lake and a screw flying off the bow of your boat and getting you between the eyes, or worse yet, your eyes. Um, Another one too, go through and there's not a whole lot for grease zerks on a boat, but your steering cables or even the shaft if you've got hydraulic, that's got a grease zerk on it. I think there's some for the trim up and down. Not sure on a jack plate. I guess I've never really seen any grease on there. I haven't looked that close yet, but there very well could be. But you don't know if you don't go look at it. I just ordered a cheap little grease gun off Amazon, and I buy the what is it that I run? Lucas, maybe. Just make sure you're using marine grade grease, which should be. I know at least Lucas is green, but I think that's like a universal thing for marine grade. Um, and two, if you've got a trailer that's got bearing buddies or whatever, you should be putting marine grade grease in there too, which so it makes sense to keep a grease gun with grease in it. Not to mention, grease the ball on your hitch and stuff like that, or your tongue on your trailer, and kind of makes a mess. But At least you're not wearing everything down. Another thing is look over your trailer, check your tire pressure. Ungreasable bearings, check and make sure they got grease. I'm probably more anal than most people. On my tractor trailer every year, the tires and the hubs came off, and I repacked the bearings by hand, put all new seals on, good to go. You ain't got to worry about it. And then maybe once a month, I'd give it a pump or two of grease. Don't go too crazy and blow the seals out. But, you know, I've fishing in the bass club, there's been some people notoriously that don't do maintenance, and there you are sitting on the side of the road changing wheel bearings, and nobody's a fan of that. Um, so yeah, I mean, just simple things you can do. Go through, look your boat over. Um, I know my new boat doesn't have carpet, but normally in the spring or whatever, I'd go through and do the whole Barbasol thing with my carpet. Get yourself you know, a brush for your drill and go grab 6, 7 cans of OG, like original dollar store Barbasol shaving cream, and you just cover the deck of your boat. Rinse it down first, and then cover the deck of your boat in that shaving cream, and go through with the brush and work it in really good. And whatever that marine grade carpet is, it reacts with that Barbasol and it stands up. It looks brand new. Your boat smells nice. I mean, not that people walk around and smell your boat, but it's just kind of one of them simple things, I guess. Uh, um, go through, check all your graph mounts, make sure them are bolted down solid. Um, the gimbal, whatever the screws on the side of the graph for the gimbal bracket, make sure them are tight. Um, Trying to think what else a guy could do. Treat your seats. Do the UV vinyl treat so your seats don't crack on you. Check for rips and tears. That way, a guy can take care of that right away. Um, just simple stuff like that. And I know not everybody is particular with stuff as I am, but just stuff to keep in the back of your head. Um, I know the old Rangers and stuff have issues with the old fiberglass lids. Guys standing on them, they wear out over time. Unfortunately, your Ranger is terrible for keeping the molds for them, but I know there's a guy out there that makes aluminum replacement lids. They'll carpet them and everything, and it's a viable option. But now's the time to find that stuff in the beginning of the season before tournaments get too crazy and stuff. Just take care of it. Make sure first time on the water, check your bilge pump, check your live well pumps, check your aerator. Little stuff like that. Maybe before you back the boat back in, look your bunks over good on your trailer. Make sure, nobody wants to have a screw or something sticking out and mess up your gel coat. Look your boat over for spider cracks and stuff like that. Check your transom. Your transducers, make sure them are bolted on there nice and solid. Nothing like dragging a $300 transducer in the water doing 60 miles an hour. I'm sure that's great for them. Look your prop over good. I mean, ideally, prop, I think a guy, you need to be checking it all the time, but, fall's kind of the time when you're petering down for the season. That way you can send it in for any repairs if you need to. Very, very minor nicks you can touch up by hand with a file, um, just all that good stuff. Now, lastly, I was kind of thinking, and regardless of what the format is for an episode, and maybe when I've got guests and stuff on, I might ask them to do it, kind of put them on the spot and see if they have anything to say. Um, but I decided I want to do a segment at the end of the every episode. I'm going to call it the final cast. It's just going to be a random thought. Maybe some days it'll just be something funny I thought of. Some days maybe it'll be something directly related to fishing. Some days maybe it'll be something completely and utterly out of left field. Um, but it's my show and I can talk about whatever the hell I want. So, some days maybe it'll be something deeper and philosophical. I don't know, just whatever I guess comes to mind. Um, But today, my final cast, um, oh, me and one of the guys at work were talking, and I don't know what it is. I guess I've noticed it before, but didn't really think about it too much. But how much, even the manliest men get kind of girly and weird when it comes to fishing stuff. You know, I know there's plenty of guys out there. I'm one of them. I'll go deer hunting, gut my deer, be covered in blood, and don't think twice of it. I've worn the same orange clothes for 6, 7 years. I never wash them. They've got blood on them from the first year I hunted. It's they're my hunting clothes. It is what it is. But now every year when fishing season comes around, you know, I've got a hat collection you wouldn't believe. For whatever reason that seems to be like the ultimate accessory. I've got hats from every company. I've got multiple FXR hats. I've got multiple Express hats. Yamaha, Mercury, tackle companies, rod and reel companies. Um, and I never wear the same one in a row. If I'm going out, I grab a different one all the time. It's just, kind of one of those weird things. Apparently, hats are purses to bass fishermen. Um, another thing is like the clothes, the flashy jerseys. I'm not big on jerseys. I've got some. I don't. It feels very patch piratey to me. Unless you're fishing some bigger stuff or you know working with some pretty reputable companies and stuff like that. Um, I don't know. It's one of those vanity things with guys. I mean, I get it to an extent. I would rather wear a t-shirt. I would rather be comfortable. I like the sun shirts. I a nice hooded sun shirt, stuff like that. But to be plastered with freaking logos and stuff, that's just I don't know. I could do without it. I miss the days of the vests with the patches on them and stuff like that. It felt a lot more sophisticated is not the word, but I've always seen bass fishing as a gentleman's sport, and that's kind of how I was taught as a kid to approach it. You carry yourself with a little bit of dignity and respect, and then we're out here putting on glorified motocross jerseys like we're 16-year-old kids on dirt bikes. Like it's weird to me. I don't get it, but it is what it is. It's here to stay. It's not going anywhere. Um, but I always do get a kick, and I'm terrible for it, you know, matching your boat. When Jess ordered these shirts right away, I told her, I said, get me a color that matches my boat. Um, Half the sun shirts I do have matched my old boat or match my truck. Like it's one of those things that's weird. I don't really care or dress like that any other time, but when I'm on the water, I don't know, it's weird. And I'm not the only guy that does it. Again, back to the sparkly boats. I don't the first time I heard somebody call a bass boat a glitter rocket, I about died laughing because there's never been a truer statement said. You know, it's a I mean, if you really think about it, it's a 21 foot, 4,000 pound pile of fiberglass, steel, and aluminum flying down the lake doing 55 to 70 miles an hour, some of them even faster than that. And I don't care if it's a river rat. Granted, a lot of them are running aluminum boats, but even them, you can get sparkly now. Um, you, you, it's like Tim Allen would say, like more power, manly piece of machinery. And the first thing a guy says when he orders the boat is what color sparkles he wants on it. You order it, what gel coat, what color pattern do you want, what flooring. It just, we are a very ironic group of people. Um, and the other thing too, like the wraps. I don't know how many boats I've seen in the last couple of years. they're not even wrapped with logos or anything. They're just buying generic ass wraps offline and putting them on. And I get it. Like, if you got flaws in your boat and you want to cover it up, whatever, like, cool, I get it. And I'm not being judgy. I just like the vanity of grown ass outdoorsmen. It's, I don't know. I find it kind of astounding, you know? Um, but yeah, that's all I've got for this one. I, uh, I just want to thank all you guys again. Sorry, I was monkeying around with something. Um, the one thing, if I could get people to, what is it? I think on Spotify it's subscribe. I don't remember what it is on any of the other stuff. But whatever, those subscriptions and stuff, you know, the, I don't have any sponsorship or anything for the podcast right now. Not saying that I'm actively looking. I mean, we're just getting started out. I'm trying to build a platform here. But eventually, you know, that is kind of the ideal. Like I said, I'm not looking to get rich, but it'd be nice to, you know, maybe fund my addiction a little bit. But all, you know, rather than having to add random ads in and monetize this that way, which I already have the option to do. But I'm sorry, I don't want to be selling boner pills on my podcast. That doesn't do anything for me. Keep the blue chews away. I'm not about pushing Tampax Pearl. I don't know what those commercials are. I don't want political crap on here. I don't, you know, to me it would mean more to find my own people that want to work with me. Um, you know, and at any point, if anybody's interested, feel free and reach out. I would love to talk. Um, but I think we're a long way yet from that. But eventually, when I do get to that point, you know, I need some numbers I can take. And these programs and stuff that I'm using do a really good job of tracking, you know, the views and stuff. You know, thank you guys very much. Like, the amount of viewers that we have that are not from Wisconsin absolutely floored me. We've got people listening in Texas, South Carolina. There might have been one in Florida. Um, I'm pretty sure I got some family down in Illinois. Shout out to the Pana area. I'm pretty sure those were my cousins. Um, just people from all over the place. A lot from Oklahoma. Like, it's neat. You know, trying to build a podcast that focused more on the Wisconsin guys, you know, I never thought of, you know, where the value could be to somebody outside of Wisconsin, which makes sense. I mean, we all listen to so much stuff from down south and we find ways to make it work for us. But it's very neat. I want to thank everybody that's listening. I did not see this going as well as it is. And I greatly appreciate the support. I mean, without people listening every time I post something, and like I couldn't do this without you guys. So thank you very much. But if I could get you guys to take the time to follow, share, you know, if you don't mind, throw it up on Facebook. I don't know. I mean, tell people about it. The more people I can get listening, if nothing else, it's cool. Like, don't know why anybody wants to listen to me, but I enjoy it and I appreciate it. Um, and then comments too. I mean, please leave feedback. I mean, don't be a prick, but you know, even negative feedback. You know, I can't improve. I can't do better if I don't know what people are thinking. So please take time. Let me know what you think. Like, follow, share, subscribe, whatever. But thank you guys very much. I greatly appreciate it. Thank you for watching the Timberline Bass Podcast. Please like, share, subscribe, tell your friends, comment, all that normal stuff. Thank you very much for your support.